proving to you that this was an evil plan from the very, very beginning. Um, However, we can turn everything around for good, right? So during the Black Plague, they considered everyone beyond dead in the sea. The only way that you could claim yourself alive was to prove that you were a living person. But they withheld that information from you. So they didn't tell you that you could claim yourself back and that you could claim yourself as a living person, and they considered you dead at sea. But the only way that you could claim yourself back was to know the fraud, as we have to learn it today and claim ourselves back. So that still applies to this day. But that was the Cestui Que Vie Act of 1666. If you want to go read about how it started and where it started and why it started, that's how far back it began. And then it really got, that act really became more active, I would say, when they started selling us VOUs and birth certificates, and creating us a social security number and a social security account number for our trust. So our social security number is basically our account number to access our funds, our trust funds, which is how all corporations have been using our money to make themselves rich without our knowledge. So, of course, most of you know this, but I'm just going to repeat it for those that don't. And if you're trying to share this with your family and friends, when the birth certificate was signed by your mother, if you look at your birth certificate, the maiden name of your mother is on your birth certificate. Okay, that's how this fraud starts. And then that made you a bastard child. Okay, so they at that point considered you lost at sea, via the placenta and other ways. And your father's name is on the birth certificate, but your mother's maiden name is on the birth certificate. And then they sent that birth certificate off to register you. Okay, and registration always means that they're putting you into the system, no matter what you register for. If you're doing anything legal, you're registering into their corporate system. So they registered your birth certificate and they gave you a social security number, account number, okay, for your trust account. But they did not tell us that. And so had they come to your mom or to me as a mom and said, you have the choice to either take your child, don't file the birth certificate, and give your child the unalienable rights that your God-given rights that God wants for your child, keep those and continue on the way that you're supposed to go, or sign this birth certificate. Let's register your child with the government and enslave them to taxation for the rest of their lives. Okay. Not me nor any other mother that I know would have ever said yes to let's move on with the registration and give our child over to the government. So that's where the fraud began. And that's, there's no statute of limitation on fraud. So because we've identified the fraud, we recognize the fraud, we're able to now come back and use that for our good. So that's how we're able to take our social security number and use it, to be able to access our Cestui Que trust. So whenever you go and get a loan at a bank, or you go and get a credit card and they pull your credit bureau and they say, no, you're not credit worthy, or your credit score is too low, or we can only give you this much and this and that. Well, when they do say we can loan you the money, what they're doing is going and they're getting the money from your trust and they're paying themselves. So if you have a mortgage, if you have a credit card, they're going in and they're saying, sure, we can give you $1,000 for your credit card. We're going to go ahead and take that $1,000 out of your Cestui Que trust, and we're going to give that to you to be able to use, and you're going to pay us back with interest. And then every time that you file that remittance form, with the coupon, and you sign your check via online or, by handwriting and sending it in. When you sign that, what they're doing is that remittance statement, if you look at the bottom, it has an account number on it. So at the bottom of your remittance coupon, there's a routing number and an account number. So they're depositing that into your Cestacade Trust, and they're getting paid from what you're giving them and with your remittance coupon. So they're double dipping into your trust every month that you pay. Same thing with a mortgage. So with a mortgage, they're getting, say you get a $400,000 house. They're going in and they're taking the $400,000 out of your trust account. They are giving you the money for the house. You're paying them back with interest. You're sending in your coupon. They're getting money from the coupon and from you, and they've already been paid for the mortgage, which is why foreclosure is a fraud. So then most of the time, after a couple of years, they're going to sell that loan off to another creditor and lender, and they're going to sorry, I'm just distracted. So when they sell that off to another lender, they're getting paid again from your trust. And so sometimes if you're 10 years into your mortgage, no telling how many, it's probably your mortgage has probably been sold 2 to 3 times at least, which means that the original person that you contracted with a wedding signature, you have no relationship with them. You never contracted with the company that possibly holds your loan now. And your house has already been paid for, not once, but twice, sometimes 3 times. So another, statute of limitation on fraud, there is none. So you can go back and you can fight if you've had a mortgage, a foreclosure, anything like that, a repossession on a vehicle. This is why all of that is fraudulent, because they've already been paid. The credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. Can you tell me why we don't all have a 900 credit score? Should we not all have a 900 credit score if everything on our credit report has been paid for already? That to me is fraudulent. Did you?
Oh, crap. Sorry, guys. Sorry. I hit the wrong button.
Okay. Where was I? Anyway,
your credit score.
Yes. So you should have a 900 credit score. All of us should. Have you ever contracted with a credit bureau? Have you ever said, hey, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, I'm going to sign a contract with you and you have permission to share my information with the world? I never did. I never told them they had that ability to go and share my information, that I agree with you and you can tell everyone about me, whether I'm worthy or unworthy of being able to buy a house or being able to buy a car, or renting a house or getting a credit card or any of those things. Okay, any of those things. You never contracted with them. I never contracted with them. I never gave them permission to use my information. And if everything on my credit report has been paid for, again, why don't we all have a 900 credit score? So that's very fraudulent as well. Anyway, so let's go into basically where HJR 192 comes in and how House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933 becomes how we use instruments and negotiable instruments to pay bills, how we can use our Cestacade Trust. Since everything's already been paid and we no longer have gold and silver backed, we're not backed by gold and silver like we should be, or, should have been up until 1933. There's no money to pay anything with. So there's no silver, there's no gold in circulation here. So we have fiat currency, we have paper money. So our system is based on basically monopoly. We're playing plus and minuses on paperwork at the banks and with these corporations, and they so basically on House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933, it says this, and it happened on April the 5th of 1933. This was done by Franklin D. Roosevelt, and he put in an executive order that said that all of the gold coin, gold bullion, and gold certificates would all be all be owned by the Federal Reserve. So the Postmaster General back then had to go around to all of his communities, houses, everything, and post a sign that said that if you have any gold, or if you have any silver or any gold, that you would have to turn it in. Do you want to add to that? Let me know if I'm missing anything. So that's how. So they had to turn in. They went around and they got and confiscated basically everyone's gold back in that day. And so the order by Roosevelt, it was a complete act of treason, because he didn't have the ability to really put in that executive order that he put in. So that was an act of treason on his part to issue an executive order demanding that the public relinquish their privately held gold.
So I just saw a thing that says who stole the gold. People that we won't talk about. I'll tell you who stole it. The Vatican, the Queen, the Rothschilds, the Cabal. I'm not afraid to mention any of them, guys. They're all crooked. The Vanderbilts are
Rothschilds,
Rockefellers. So yes, they're the ones who stole the gold. The Vatican's had a lot of it.
It's been held under the Vatican. It's been held under the Vatican. It's also been held at Fort Knox. And that's why we always, all of our lives, or at least me, have always heard locked up like Fort Knox. Okay. Everything is locked up like Fort Knox, because that's where your gold is. There's gold at Fort Knox, and there's gold under the Vatican. So let me read you exactly what HJR, in case those of you who don't know, you need to know this, because this is how you're paying off your bills. This is what gives you the ability to pay off your bills. This is what gives you the ability to use negotiable instruments. This is what gives you the ability to say, if you don't accept this, I'm leaning you as a corporation, because we do not have gold and we do not have silver to pay you in this country. Therefore, you have to accept paper money, because that's the system that in 1933, Franklin Roosevelt created for us. And he also created an executive order to take our gold. And now we have House Joint Resolution of HJR 192 of 1933. And it says this, it states that every provision contained in or made with respect to any obligation which purports to give the obligee a right to require payment in gold or a particular kind of coin or currency, or in any amount of money of the United States measured thereby, is declared to be against public policy. And no such provision shall be contained in or made with respect to any obligation hereafter incurred. So every obligation thereto or hereafter incurred, whether or not such provisions is contained therein or made with respect to, shall be discharged upon payment dollar for dollar in any such coin or currency which at the time of payment is legal tender for public and private debts. So, shall be discharged upon payment dollar for dollar. That's our legal tender. So, this is how you are able to negotiate and pay your debts they created for you. And then it goes on to state, as used in this resolution, the term obligation means every obligation of and to the United States, accepting currency payable in money of the United States. And the term coin or currency means coin or currency of the United States, which is fiat, which is paper money, including Federal Reserve notes, which is paper money, dollar bills, Federal Reserve notes or dollar bills, and circulating notes of Federal Reserve banks and national banking associations. This eliminated our ability to pay our debts, allowing them to only be discharged. So when we use commercial paper, okay, promissory notes, Federal Reserve notes, dollar bills, bonds, drafts, warrants, those types of things, those are accepted as money. We simply pass the unpaid debt attached to that paper on to others, which is why when you go to pay with a coupon, you can use in parentheses, except for value, because they can accept that for value. It's on a coupon that has a routing number and account number at the bottom. They can accept it for value per HJR, House Joint Resolution 192 of 1933. And you can sign it, UCC 1-308, and you can endorse it on the back like a check with your beneficiary signature. And that's the same as writing them a check. It's fiat money. It's paper considered paper money.
Yeah, the money that's in our trust, guys, is not backed by gold or silver either. So they just give it a value. That's why it has value. So really, it doesn't have any value. We just use it.
There is no money in the U.S.
So,
We're going on plus and minuses, plus and minuses, plus and minuses. Okay, so whenever we're doing this and we're sending the 1099-As up to the Treasury, we're creating money for them. We're putting money into circulation because paper is money in the United States. Okay, there is nothing else but paper. So
you know, when you get something back from the credit card company, like what we've got when fighting some of this stuff, all things are to be paid in US dollars. There's no US dollars. It says Federal Reserve note on top of that dollar bill or that 20 or whatever. So you can't pay with US dollars. You have gold and silver is the only way to pay. So you can discharge the debt. There's been people that have actually taken napkins and made their own money order, put account numbers on there, made their money order, sent it in, and it gets paid because they created a money order with it by monetizing it.
Does that work all the time? No. Does sending a negotiable instrument work every time? No. I know a lot of you on here follow Chris Hauser. That's who we study with. When we have questions, we ask him to back us up and if we're right or if we're wrong, and we work together to try to compare notes. Yeah, that is why we can use the HJR 192 of 1933 on any of our bills and say except for value. They're going to fight you. Okay. Most people do not know you can do this. I believe that even some of the CEOs in today's corporations have no clue what we're talking about. It's unfortunate that they haven't been educated on the topic, but a lot of them have no clue what we're talking about. And so you can send in a coupon and you can put all HJR 192 of 1933, except for value, sign it and endorse it on the back. And then you might get something back that said, we don't accept this instrument for payment, or we don't accept this. This is not a form of payment, because they have no clue. They have no clue. And they don't bother to go look up HJR 192 of 1933 and see what it means. They just say, no, we can't take this because, you've not been taught to take it. So it's unfortunate, but we're up against a fight, and we continue to fight. We're in this movement. God called us to do something wonderful here together to help people that are struggling in this country and to take not just our country back. I'm not even going to say to take our country back. This has nothing to do with taking our country back. It has to do with taking your life back, okay? Our lives and our freedom to live the way God intended was stolen from us long ago, long before any of us were ever here.
Hey guys, I don't know if y'all have seen my thing. Any of you guys that have USC codes or all these different codes and things you're putting in this chat, if you're in the Telegram chat, please put that out there so that especially they can start educating themselves and look up these codes. Our admins will help to pin some of those. Our admins are very knowledgeable in all of these
USC
codes. And so we can, they will, pin them, help to put them out, help to educate, because we all have to educate on every bit of this, guys. This is the only way we're going to be able to fight this system and do what we're wanting to do with the funds and everything. So.
Yeah. And as you can tell, I'm not a teacher. I never wanted to be a school teacher. I never wanted to teach anything. I'm so not a teacher. So forgive me for looking at my notes while I'm talking to you. I know this stuff. If you've talked to me on the phone, you know that I know this stuff back and forth, but when I'm trying to present it, that's a different story. So I'm doing the best I can. So forgive me if it's back and forth, but I want to make sure that I'm not missing something important because, I'm not a teacher. And yes, the 12 USC codes, I saw someone put up the 12 USC codes. That all has to do with the Federal Reserve notes and stuff like that. So look that up and really look over the 12 USC codes. There's like 12 USC 411. There's 12 USC 152. Look up all of the 12 USC because it all talks about money and currency and that type of thing.
Yeah, James, you're right. Country's been bankrupt since 1933, guys, and just operates in color only. The more money the more Federal Reserve notes that they can pump into the system, they basically crash the value of everything. That's why when NESARA actually comes out, these values of everything are gonna drop. It's said that we're gonna be back down into the 1950s and 60s prices, guys.
If NESARA is correct, I've read NESARA, the NESARA law, and I've read a bunch of things to do with NESARA. When NESARA happens, we're supposed to go back to the 1950-60 time frame of pricing, where gasoline, number one, everything's going to pretty much go to electric because we're supposed to have free energy. So it makes sense to go electric. The gas prices, they say, are supposed to go back down to the 5 cent to 20 cent mark per gallon. If your houses go down to where they were at 25,000 or whatever they were back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, then you're going to be able to get in cash. Apparently, don't quote me on this, but apparently you're going to be able to get in cash the difference between what the house is and what you paid for it. So we're going to also be able to supposedly collect the interest that we paid on all of these loans and all of this credit cards and all of this. We're going to be able to get the interest back from that and things like that. But until then, we move forward and we press on as a group that educates and learns how we can use what we have at our hands at the moment. So it's very important while we're doing this process for you to understand that when they did do the birth certificate and when they did create your social security number and when they registered you and they made you a corporate entity. So your all caps name is your corporation. So I am Tara Jean Jarrett, the corporate entity in all caps. Okay. Tara Jean Jarrett beneficiary is me, the living person. Okay. So there's two different Taras. There's the corporate one that they created for me to access my trust or be able to do the things I do on a corporate level. And then there's me, the living person, that my parents gave me the name. And, God created me with my trademark name. So basically when they did that and they created your straw man, okay, you can kind of go back to the Wizard of Oz. That's what this all has to do with. But the straw man is you are the creditor of everything because of your straw man Sestakate trust. So when you call your lender, which I still have to get my terminology right, okay? Because I've been, brainwashed too my whole life. So it's hard to change everything all at once, but we have always said the creditor is the bank, or the creditor is, whatever the lender is, or the creditor is the credit card company. Really and truly, that's backwards. You're the creditor, and they're borrowing from your trust. So you've got to understand the difference, and you've got to start recognizing, especially with what we're doing with the 1099-A, you've got to recognize the difference between the straw man and the beneficiary. That is very important. That if someone comes to you later on and says, how did you acquire this property? It's very important that you say, I'm the beneficiary. I was able to use a trustee and get it from my straw man account. Okay, you've got to be able to talk that language. If you're not at the level to talk that language, you need to really educate on this part of the process. And I can give you some tools at the end of this to read and study about. But you really have to educate, because if someone comes and questions you on how did you do this? How were you able to acquire these? You want to be able to say, I didn't just jump into a line that said we can get a free house. I actually know how this works. I can use my straw man account because they created it and they made me a creditor when I was born. And me as the beneficiary got a trustee to act as the middleman for me so that I could acquire a home without having to pay interest back. The corporations actually should be paying us the interest because they've already borrowed from us. So we have no business paying them anything. They've already been able to take from our account and get paid. That's why I went to a realtor, and you learn this process. It's very hard to look at people going through foreclosure the same way. The fraud is they've already paid for their house. They should not be kicked out of their house. And those that have, you need to lien them. You need to lien them very heavily. And it's going to take us as a group to lien the same corporations just a very few amount of times to make them educate and to shut them down on not accepting negotiable instruments. Until we stand up and start liening them for not taking our currency that they put into circulation from us to pay our bills that they created for us, until we start doing something about it, this is going to continue. It's never going to change. So as we learn this and we come together as a group, it's really my prayer that we all come together and start working together to make corporates educate, to make corporations educate themselves on what type of money they should be accepting for payment. Because really and truly, they don't know. A lot of them just don't know. So when you get a bill, it's a demand for real money. Okay, its currency is in real money. To what real money means is that it's backed by gold and silver. A bill is a demand for payment that can't be made because there's no real money with which to pay the charge. So in Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution, Congress has the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. So in other words, the credit that Congress borrows is the credit of the people. Okay, which means that they're getting it from our trust. They tell us all this in our face, and we just don't know what they mean. The credit that Congress borrows is the credit of the people that the people loan to the United States. Okay, and they have the power to borrow money on credit of the United States per Article 1, Section 8, Clause 2 of the U.S. Constitution. In 1933, House Joint Resolution HJR 192 made it a federal offense. It's a federal offense, and this is why I'm telling you we need to stand up and start liening people that do not take our currency, fiat currency, paper money from us when we send a negotiable instrument and we're paying them, and they do not accept it. This is the repercussions, okay? In 1933, House Joint Resolution 192 made it a federal offense to accept Federal Reserve notes to discharge contract obligations demanding gold, okay? They did not order people to use Federal Reserve notes to discharge debt. It allowed people to use federal notes to discharge debt. So since there's no real money in the United States, a charge, an invoice, a bill is an offer to contract and to settle the debt with the Federal Reserve note or with a mutual offset credit exemption exchange. So it also says that you, if they're going to send you a bill or a bill or a debt instrument that they call it, to pay them back, they have to be able to provide a remedy for you. Okay, so if they didn't send you a check to write them back, they didn't provide a remedy. So, and that's one of the obligations of HJR 192 of 1933 is to provide a remedy so that you can pay the debt back. So if they're not going to take your instrument, what's the remedy that they're providing? That's another question we can ask them when we do our conditional acceptance. And, you know, most of the time they're not going to answer you back. And that's why we have to follow up with a lien. And if enough of us do that, then, you know, it'll shut them down a bit. So the state and the world that we live in, society that we live in, and the state that we live in has convinced us that our living flesh and blood, woman or man that we are, okay, our living flesh, they have told us that they are addressing us instead of the fictional entity. But when they send us a bill in our all caps name, or they send us a ticket, they give us a ticket for, you know, running a stop sign or running a red light or rolling through something, they're giving your corporate entity, your straw man, the ticket. They're not giving us, the living people, as the ticket, or they're not referring to us, the living person, to pay the bill. They're referring to our straw man. So, but they want you to believe that they're referring to you as a living person. The debt belongs to the fictitious you. So it belongs to the corporate you, not you as a living person, man or woman. The real you is presumed to be, but the real you is presumed to be responsible for the fictitious mirror image straw man's actions and debts. So they want you to think that they're giving it to you, but they're not. Anything that comes to you in your all caps name, they're issuing it to the straw man, to the corporate entity of you, not you, the living person. So, let's see here.
I mean, and think about it, guys. I know some people are saying when they send it, it says a statement and it's not a bill. If it was a bill and it was a debt you owed, wouldn't there be some negative numbers there? They're all positive. You're setting that off by sending them some money so they can balance out their books.
Yeah, if you owed something, it would be a negative $400, not a positive $400, to zero it out, right? Because plus and minuses equal zero. Think about it that way. Also, just to let you know, you, the living person, in the debt system that we're working in. Now, I'm not saying this, and I don't want to confuse you. Okay, on our 1099As, if you're filling them out, in physical form, the black ink, we've been sending them with blue ink too, but black ink is what the corporations want you to have. You know, you've always heard them say black ink for any contracts, black ink for any corporate document, sign in black ink. Okay, the reason they don't, blue ink actually is the most important pen that we can hold. With a blue ink pen, we give credibility, credit, basically, to any document that does not have a blue ink signature on it. Acceptance is a banker acceptance. You're accepting the document, the presentment for payment. So anybody who sends you a bill who does not also send you a check with which to pay it, and always use your blue ink pen. My point to this is whenever you pay bills, whenever you write a check, whenever you sign your beneficiary name, whenever you sign, you always use a blue pen. The red pen is also considered the living soul of you. So red and blue ink are the most profound instruments that you hold in your hand. Anybody who sends you a bill who does not also send you a check with which to pay it has created a public liability for which they did not provide a remedy. Everything is commerce, and everything in commerce is a mirror image, the exact opposite of real life. So everything that you see is opposite of, as we've learned, every single thing that you see is opposite of what you thought. Let me see.
Go ahead.
I didn't know if you had anything to add while I'm moving on.
You're good.
Let's see what else I wanted to say. So it's very important to understand definitions. Okay. Definitions, one word can mess you up. One word when you go and stand in front of a judge to fight a ticket can mess you up. One word in commerce can mess you up. So, and they do that on purpose. They do that on purpose as trickery. So, a person, by definition, a person is an entity, such as a corporation, that is recognized by law as having the rights and duties of a human being. That's Black's Law Dictionary. If you look, get very familiar with the Black's Law Dictionary.
I think one of the admins has been posting some of the Black's Law stuff in the in one of the groups. I don't know which one, but I'm pretty sure he'll post some stuff if y'all want him to.
But yeah, person, and get very familiar with the Black's Law Dictionary. I know if you listen to Chris Hauser, you know that the Black's Law is where you need to go, and really the 4th and 5th edition are the ones that.
Yeah, guys, because I got the pocket edition, which I thought was the 6th edition, but as I started reading through it, it's actually the 11th edition because it's a pocket edition. There's a lot of words missing. It's missing a lot. If I go, I have the 4th edition on my phone as a PDF, and it takes me like 900 pages just to get to the L's. So yeah, there's a lot of words missing in any of the older editions. They just strike them, don't decide they don't need them anymore. So, you know, get the older editions if you can.
Yeah. So, so here's what the glorious Rockefeller family, okay, and the founder of the just glorious Rockefeller family, this is what he had to say. His main saying was own nothing but control everything. And so the mission of the Rockefeller family was for us to own nothing and them to control everything, which they have done, from money to pharmaceuticals to oil and gas to transportation to everything. They own everything. And if you haven't read about the Rockefellers and how they acquired everything that this entire world thrives on, you should really go back and read how John D. Rockefeller created the wealth that he did and how he did it against us in all aspects of our lives. And so you must realize that the debt is not your debt personally. It's your straw man's debt. You've been functioning as a volunteer representative of your Sestake Trust all of this time as your straw man. And by discharging your straw man's bills with fiat money instead of paying them with your mutual offset credit exemption exchange, you know, you can have freedom. So that's just stuff that they've been withholding from us. And I won't go much further than that, but I will go into some of the.
I don't know about the purple ink, guys. I know the blue, red, black's dead, blue, with the land. But as far as there's some people in here that know all the colors. I've seen gold and pink, purple, and some other things. If you guys have that information and want to share in the Telegram chat group, guys, so that other people can understand the significance of using different inks, then okay, blue ink is Admiralty. Sorry. Yes. Yeah. Red ink is the living soul. So there we go.
So just think blue and water, blue and sea. Yeah. That's what it means. It's taking, yeah, it's from Admiralty.
I got a cheat sheet. I don't keep them all in my head.
The red pen is for your blood, living person.
I see gold pen is for sovereignty. So yeah, Princess there, can you put that in the chat?
And please know that Drew and I do not know everything at all, by all means. We're just trying to bring you education and help in what we do know so that we can all come together and, you know, form a mission together to start getting bills taken care of, and we can, you know, have some freedom in our lives that we didn't know we could have and how we can have it. So
I'm seeing some discrepancies in the colors. That's what I'm saying, guys. That's why the chat group is there. Like, I don't know all the colors. I've never like researched into all of that stuff.
So here's just a few words, and these were shared today, and I really liked it, so I pulled it with one of our admins, shared this on our Telegram page. But this is just the difference in what one word can make. Okay, if you're in the de jure, which is common law, land and soil jurisdiction, functioning under constitutional law and common law, natural law of the land, then that's the de jure. The de facto is the legal side. The de facto is the legal side. So like your counties that are incorporated, all of your incorporated states and all that is the de facto, the United States of America incorporated de facto. But here's how one word can change what we mean. Under the de facto, you're a legal person. And we've been taught to believe that you're a legal person. But truthfully, under God's natural law, you're a lawful person. Because we're following the laws of Bible, because the Bible is law. In the de facto, you're a male or a female. In the de jure, you're a man or a woman, a living man, a living woman. No male or female about it. You're not a person or a human. Okay, that's de facto. And if you look at those terms and what that means, you'll realize, no, because that can be a corporate entity. You're a living man and a living woman. In the de facto, you're a parent. So what are your parents' names? That's de facto. Who are your mother and father are in the lawful. In the de facto, they like to say children and kids, your children and kids, but it's your sons and daughters in the lawful, de jure. It's just small little words. There are no titles. God did not give you a title of Mr., Mrs., or Miss. God gave your parents the right to name you, but there is no Mr., Mrs., and Miss. That's de facto. All caps names are de facto. Proper names with your first letter being capital and the rest of your name being lowercase, that's a proper name in the de jure. You know, honorable and esquire refers to judges and a lot of court stuff. That's de facto. There's no titles of nobility or anything when it comes to the de jure. Taxpayer, nope, you're not a taxpayer. That's in the de facto. You're a priority creditor. So you're automatically a creditor in the de jure. In the de facto, you have a date of birth, which is why they say if you go to court, never say, if they say, what is your date of birth? You perjure yourself. I was born on, you could say that. Born nativity is your de jure terminology. In lawful terms, de jure terms, you have a birth record. Okay, nothing is registered, everything is recorded. You have a birth record. In the de facto, you have a birth certificate. Under your lawful terms and de jure terms, you have rights. Under the de facto, you have privileges. So, I mean, I won't go on and on because we can post this up, but under the lawful terms, you have an autograph, you don't have a signature. Signatures are in the de facto. So that's why you need to learn to say, I autograph, I don't sign, I autograph. Sovereign, if you're a sovereign, you're lawful. If you're an indentured servant is the equivalent to that in the de facto. So an affidavit, and the reason we call affidavits because the same terminology in lawful terms is declaration, statements, or your testimony. But in the de facto, and when we're fighting the de facto, you do an affidavit. So those are some of the things that I thought were just kind of applies, but it just kind of tells you that one word can mess you up. Just one simple word.
You're right, Jake Stu. Celebrities do give autographs and they're treated like gods. You know, everybody worship, oh, I got celebrity, oh, I'm going to go get the autograph of this player, autograph. We don't ever say I'm going to get their signature. So think about it. You know, how you're looking, how you're writing that stuff or talking. They know, a lot of them do know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because a lot of them are benefiting from what we should have been benefiting from all of this time. But they had to sell themselves to get to where they are, which no, thank you. I would rather learn on my own and get to where I am. Oh, also, we're going to go, that's all I have for tonight as far as that type of education. If you haven't read the Patriot Act that was brought out in, because I saw something that referred to it, which is what brought it up. The Patriot Act, if you are a common law, or if you're an American national and you recognize the fraud and you're living on the land and soil constitutionally and using your constitutional rights in this country, you're considered a terrorist, which is probably why we're called conspiracy theorists. If you read the U.S. Patriot Act that George Bush Jr. signed in after 9/11, I think it was 2001 or 2002. He signed that in.
It went in fast, guys. Think about that. It was already in the works.
Mm-hmm.
So
it says that if you are homeschooling your kids, or if you are acting under constitutional law or trying to, that you're considered a terrorist. They can tap into your emails. They can tap into your phones. They can come and search your home without a warrant if they want to. I mean, it's a lot of things that I just became aware of this week. So, you know, if you already know all the stuff I talked about tonight, there's a good read for you if you've never read the U.S. Patriot Act. Also, I don't know if any of you heard if any of you saw the Watch the Water with Dr. Brian Ardis out of Dallas, chiropractor out of Dallas. Him and Richard Bartlett out of West Texas came up with what COVID really is, and they did a series on Stu Peters' show, Watch the Water. If you haven't watched it, it's a 45-minute watch that you should really, 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 really watch. Very, very interesting of how COVID is snake venom. And if you look at the term COVID equals the name venom. So they had it in our face the whole time. But the venom, the reason monoclonal antibodies were helping with COVID is because it's anti-venom, and that's why it was helping. Hydroxychloroquine, the reason that it was helping is, what was it? It neutralizes.
It neutralizes
it neutralizes
snake venom.
So of course they didn't want us to use that. it's in our water. They put it through our water systems. So be careful not to drink tap water, just to be careful with that. If you haven't watched it, go watch it.
You're right, Marquine Investments. They told you if you were a smoker, please stop smoking, guys, because your health was at a higher risk. Smokers didn't get COVID. Nicotine stopped the attack to the brain and to other areas of the body. So think about that. The nicotine receptors that Dr. Ardis talks about when you smoke cigars, whatever you smoke, if it's got any sort of nicotine to it, it's attaching to all those receptors and keeping you from getting COVID. So smokers had the least likely chance of getting COVID. Same as kids. Kids didn't have a chance of getting it. They had to find a way to get it into their system, guys, because of their I forgot what it's called. They have less of them than adults. As we get older, the amount of this particular thing actually increases. It'll come to me after the live's over.
Yeah. So I really encourage you to go watch that series. It was really, really good, and it brought a lot of understanding to. Even though I've always thought COVID was, I never was,
I'm even starting to question some of the spring water guys, the bottled water, things like that. You don't know what they're putting in it,
Dasani, by the way, Dasani, if you put a Dasani water bottle in the freezer, it will not freeze. Things that make you go, it doesn't freeze.
How do you lean a company? Hauser has some leans in his stuff that he's been sharing. You can get with him and actually look at some of the leans so you can learn how to write the lean. You're doing it and using the treasury to contract to be able to collect. You're not going to do it and publicly put it on them. You're basically doing it and then sending it to them and recording it. You're getting it notarized, monetizing it, and sending it to them. So yeah, we haven't leaned anybody. We have been looking at a lot of that because we have a lot of people that have basically taken our negotiable instruments, and now it's time to try to figure out how to get the stuff paid for that we've been sending. One of the things that I listened to Chris last night, which was very informational on some stuff, was never send a conditional acceptance with your voucher or your coupon. Send it accept for value. We didn't know that. We send a conditional acceptance with everything. So maybe that's why things haven't worked. He basically said, just do your beneficiary signature, accept for value, send the acceptance, accept for value letter with them, explain what this was, and then go from there. And if they do not pay, then you want to conditionally accept them.
The name of the documentary is Stu Peters. You can find it on Rumble under the Stu Peters show and or podcast or whatever it's called, but Stu Peters, and it's called Watch the Water with Brian Ardis.
Guys, I see a lot of will you be responding to emails? Will you be if you emailed us in the last week to week and a half?
We're working on it, but it's going to be a while.
It's going to be a while. Tara has we have 1,400 in the combined one. I think I still have like 300 or 400. Tara has 600. I think I responded to 50 DMs this morning, and it took me an hour and a half because a lot of the DMs, even the DMs, there's long questions in the DM, and I read all of it, and then I'm having to respond. So it takes time, guys. That's one reason we're not doing the phone calls right now, because I can't get all the paperwork done. If you actually saw our counter, our coffee table, the chair that's actually behind us, our kitchen table, it's become an office, and there's papers everywhere. And everybody that has sent us paperwork in, we probably have not reached back out yet, but we have received a lot of paperwork. We have also received a lot of boxes of supplies as far as mailing slips,
And thank all of you.
OIDs and 1096s. So thank you guys, because we really need all of that stuff to be able to get stuff done. Also, anybody whose tracking number says intercepted, I had a call with the postal inspector today, and they are going to be getting back with me tomorrow. They're trying to figure out what the deal is, so I'll know what to do and where those are from here. So
I'll put that video up of the med beds from last week, and I can share Watch the Water in our Telegram channel also this evening. So if you want to go there, I can get that pinned into our Telegram channel also. Because again, Drew and I are here voluntarily to give information that we know. We don't know everything. We still watch Chris and learn from him. If we have questions, we go to those. We learn from, medical experts that we trust. We're very, we believe in very holistic things. Drew has 18 years of physical therapy experience and still does that also. And so he's a very holistic and knows a lot about medical. So we're just here to try to help. I'm trying to help save lives and help get freedom and live like we're supposed to be able to live. And the knowledge, I like to give the knowledge. We're held by the standard of what we know. God says that you're accountable for what you know and how you use that knowledge. And so for me, I'm trying to use what I've learned and what I know to share with others to help in ways that I feel like he's leading me to help. So I get off topic and I change subjects a lot. Forgive me for that, but it's just because I'll forget. And if I know of something that I feel is important to let you know, I'm going to let you know. Also with that, if you have a loved one that has COVID, if you have a loved one that's going into the hospital because they cannot breathe, do not let them go to the hospital, and do not let them administer remdesivir, because remdesivir, we found out on Watch the Water, is venom, and it paralyzes the diaphragm, which is why people cannot breathe. Because if you get COVID and you cannot breathe, it's because the diaphragm got paralyzed from the venom, and they are putting further venom into your body with remdesivir. So do not let a loved one go to the hospital.
Dang, it was somebody's. Go ahead. Some other things. I mean, you could use dandelion root will help the detox. Diatomaceous earth.
Diatomaceous earth.
Go to Tractor Supply. I mean, get you a thing of diatomaceous earth. Drink it every day. It pulls out parasites. Go through, get you some EDTA. That actually will help as well as a detox. We're firm believers in the MMS. That really helps to detox as well, guys. You do some research, figure out what works best for you, and then go from there.
If you want to get your hands on some MMS, and you don't want to order from Australia, we know a guy that lives in the US that can ship it to you. You just have to pay the shipping cost and maybe give him a donation for it, because he makes it and he can't sell it in the US, but he does it just out of the goodness of his heart to distribute to people. So if you're interested in getting some MMS, we have sources that can help you with that.
Again, yeah, he's a great guy. I mean,
again, just put MMS in the subject line if you send us an email, and I'll have who's helping us with the emails drop you the link to his site so that you can reach out, and he's there to help too. So,
Christy, I don't know if the bank's if they fill out their OID and they get their money, I don't know how they're gonna say that they have a loss. That's kind of a crazy situation. If they filled it out and get their money back, because yes, they borrowed the money from you, the creditor. So yeah, I don't know on that. We'll just have to, that's probably gonna be a fight, because like we said, they don't want to do this stuff. They don't want to file it. They want you to pay so they can continue to get their double and triple dip into your trust. And then, so what is being referred to as a coupon? It's that detachable part on your statement, guys.
I think I have one. I'll find it.
You know, when you get your statement in, it'll say detach here, send in with your check. Look at the bottom of that. It has routing numbers and account numbers on it for the, and that's their account. You're basically going to turn that into a money order and submit that back to them. So that's different than the 1099A. So, so yeah, the 1099A, you're going to fill out, and basically you have to have somebody else as a trustee fill it out for you. So here's one right here.
Does it have the account number on the bottom?
I don't know. So,
I have one.
okay. As far as money coming in, guys, if it's supposed to come in according to the 10 business day thing that we've been seeing on the 1099A, we should start seeing some funds come in next week. So that's only if that's actually true, guys. You know, we filled out all the paperwork we were supposed to for the SAM and IPP and all this other stuff, but it's 10 business days to even get a response from them on any of the paperwork. So that means that we won't even know anything about that till the first week of May because of filling it out.
Here's your remittance coupon. There's your remittance coupon. Here's the account number.
So you're going to accept for value HJR 192. You're going to monetize this by signing your beneficiary signature.
You can endorse the back. That makes this become a check.
And we've seen some other ways to monetize it. And I think
some people do this and they draw a line here and say pay to the order of, and they put the amount in here like you do on a check. They monetize this and make it into a check, and then the amount goes there.
I've also seen that you can write charge back to the straw man and put your straw man number on there. You know, there's other ways, there's ways to do it. And honestly, if you're in the Telegram chat, the admins in there are very knowledgeable on a lot of this stuff, guys. They're putting a lot of stuff out, and you know, you might just have to ask and see if they can help to share some of this information. I know we're basically working with the 1099A, but we're trying to, you know, we're fighting all of this. We don't deal with the 1099C because that's the company has to discharge the debt. We're not talking about the OID because actually the trustee is the one that has to fill out the OID. They need to learn that information and all that. That's not for us to teach you guys. And
here's the deal. If you have questions, because we really do have a lot of admins behind the scene that have a whole lot of knowledge, a whole lot. And if you can go there and just ask the admins to help with whatever question you have, if they can't answer it, they're going to notify us that you need help. That's going to be a lot faster than sending us an email for a question, because our emails are loaded down with documents that we need to print and file and print and file. So if you have basic questions, it would really help us if you go to Telegram and ask our admins and then let them get in touch with us if they can't answer it for some reason. Which I'm telling you, if they can't answer it, the chances are neither can I. But because we built a great team. I say that with sincerity. We've built a really great team.